G'day folks, Lone Mojo here, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at Cyberpunk 2077 and specifically looking at the David Martinez build. So the first thing I want to say about this build is there are a bunch of different variations that you can make. So this isn't going to be the comprehensive, this is the best build, but more so this will give you an idea of what you need to look at in order to create that David style gameplay. So the first component we're going to look at is the cyberware. Now, if you've seen Edgerunners, you'll know that the Sande or the Sande is a really important part of the story, and it's also the cyberware that gives David his speed. So that's going to be a really crucial part of this puzzle. Now, there's some other cyberware that I've used that sort of complements this style of gameplay. And currently I don't have top end gear, but this is something that you can upgrade as you're playing the game. First up, we've got heal on kill. This is pretty good for clearing out a room full of people because you get a little buff of health every time you defeat an enemy. Similar to the heal on kill, the adrenaline booster will give you a 20% stamina boost when you defeat an enemy. Now, you're going to be using a lot of stamina for using your fists, so this is a really good way of keeping that topped up. We also have the bioconductor. This will reduce the cyberware cooldowns by 10%, which means your Sande will be online more regularly. I've also included subdermal armor just to give you a bit more armor in this build. You're going to end up in situations where you get shot a bit after the Sande runs out, and this really helps out. Next, we've got the micro rotors. These increase your attack speed by 20%, which means you're going to be throwing fists faster and doing more damage more quickly, getting more utilization out of your Sande. And then we've got the micro vibration generator. This is great for increasing your melee weapon damage by 10%, and obviously fists class as a melee weapon, so it's a nice little buff. And the last one is the gorilla arm. So I'm going for a brawler build. I figure that most suits David. So these were a bit of a no-brainer. However, you could also swap this out for things like manta blades, etc., and have a really cool build as well. Moving over to the character screen, and we're going to talk about the attributes first. Now, there are three main ones that you're going to want to sink your points into. As I mentioned, reflexes are really important to unlock the ability to use the Sande. In my case, we're going to be using body because we want those brawler bonuses. And finally, we've got cool because we want the benefits that we get from cold-blooded. So in athletics, firstly, I'm looking at the defensive skills. Steel shell is going to give you a bonus 10% armor. Indestructible will reduce incoming damage by 10%. Steel and chrome is going to give us a bonus 20% damage to melee weapons, which is including our fists. True Grit increases your maximum stamina by 30%. Again, this is all about letting you fight for longer. And finally, we've got Like a Butterfly, which means your dodges don't drain stamina, which means you can dodge around the battlefield and still have the energy to punch people up. Now, because I'm using the Gorilla Fists, I'm going to go to the Street Brawler next. And the first one I want to look at is Opportune Strike, which increases the damage of blunt weapons against enemies affected by stun by 50%. So a good little damage buff if we can manage to stun them. Flurry increases the damage from combo attacks with blunt weapons by 50%. And Dazed is all attacks with a blunt weapon have a 30% chance to apply stun, which will then feed back into our Opportune Strike. And the last one in Street Brawler is Efficient Blows, which will reduce the stamina cost of all attacks with blunt weapons by 50%, again stacking on that stamina regen. Now, if you wanted to use, say, a katana instead of your Gorilla Fists, you can go into your reflexes and start picking some skills up there. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to just be looking at the Gorilla Fists as our primary damage source. So to round this out, we're going to be taking a look at what our options are in cool. And I actually pick up a few ninjutsu points here, so let's have a look at what they are. Firstly, we've got Hasty Retreat, which will give you a bonus to your movement speed for 5 seconds when you get detected by an enemy. This is great for when you run into a room and start wanting to lay into people. And it stacks well with the Warp Dancer Sande, which has a delayed detection time, which means you're often getting this bonus after your Sande has run out. From the Shadows gives you a bonus 20% crit chance for 7 seconds after you enter combat, which will stack really well with some of the other damage bonuses we've got to help you finish people off pretty quickly. Lastly, we have Cheat Death, and when your health drops below 50%, all incoming damage is reduced by 50% for 10 seconds. So this goes into our survivability. So in the Cold Blood talent section, we're going to pick up the Cold Blood passive for starters. This is great for building up movement speed as we get a 2% bonus per stack. And it also gives a lot of bonuses for some of the other options in this tree. Pain is an Illusion will increase our damage resistance by 5% whenever this Cold Blooded is activated. So that's going to give us survivability. Will to Survive will increase our damage resistance to everything by 6% per stack of Cold Blood. Predator gives you an increased attack speed by 30% per stack of cold blood. So this is really nice for dealing out damage. We're going to be hitting people a lot faster. And the last one we're going to get is coldest blood. This gives us a bonus 2 stacks of cold blood. So for example, if we look at Predator, we're going to get an extra 60% attack speed with this buff. So the general way this build will work is you will activate your Sande Vesten and you will go in and punch people as much as you can until your Sande Vesten runs out. And then you should have the survivability to pick off what is left, or in the case of large groups, buy you enough time for your Sande to come back online so that you can slow down time again. Okay, I've got some armed guards here. I'm going to activate the Sande. In I go.
You can't be dead! Time for killing!
So the thing I like about this build is that it's something that you can work on over the course of the game. And really you just need to get that reflex up to, I think, about 13 to get your first Sande Vesten. Once you've done that, it's all about getting your strength up, getting those guerrilla arms, and punching people to death. So hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It'll really help me out. And until next time, take care.